Acting legend Jamie Lee Curtis quoted as saying, Cuban Ana de Armas, inexperienced because she just came from Cuba.
Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. The slant, yeah, but isn't this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think it's the unplugged version. All right, Paulie, let's go.
Paulie here, back on the Latino Slant. Hope everyone is doing well. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are checking out all our videos, got the alarms on it, alerts and all that stuff. Okay, in this video, here's what we're going to do. I want you to watch the entire video. Right now, we're going to go over the Elle magazine story, just kind of skim through it. I read the whole thing, and then we're going to hit the lovable land of Twitter and all its positivity and thoughts on Miss Jamie Lee Curtis and what she had to say. This has not been a great week for Latinos, Latino culture, in pop culture, in politics. A lot of ignorance. I will say that respectfully, ignorance from fellow artists, politicians, on just the complexities and wonderfulness that is the Latino culture that comes from so many different countries. So here's what we got. All right, let's get to it. Now, I will say this is Elle magazine. It's a fashion magazine, and Anna's Getaway. Ana de Armas, the radiant Cuban-born star of The Gray Man, is complex, contemplative, and extremely grateful to have escaped L.A. So Ana, and in this article, I have the link. There's some incredible photos of Ana. It's a fashion magazine. That's what you're going to expect. Some amazing photos going on there. Ana is Spanish-Cuban, born and raised in Cuba, and then spent time in Spain, and has been doing TV and film productions, I believe, ever since she was in her early 20s. She's about 34 now. Now, this article actually is a really good overview on where Armas is going in her career, in which she's going to play Marilyn Monroe. She's going to be playing a John Wick spinoff and Ballerina, but also where she's been in her career the last few years, spending in LA, and before that in Spain. And one thing that I didn't know is how much of a non-English speaker she actually was. So when she came to the States, she spent hours and hours for several months honing in on her English, which I commend her. And another thing that I commend the Cuban people is their incredible tenacity and their hard work ethic that they have had from the very start of Cuban people. Cuban people have not been around, I would say, as who they are for about 500 years. The same thing as the Mexican people. But the thing with the Cuban immigrant experience too is from Andy Garcia. I mean, Desi Arnaz, this incredible list of hardworking Cuban Americans that have made something here and of themselves, and Anna's no different. So that was interesting. Her producing now, in particular, Ballerina with Keanu Reeves. That's interesting, and of course, like I said earlier, some stunning fashion photos in this. Now, and she talks about growing up in Cuba, growing up with her family, and just how she sees Cuba as far as the kind of like ideals and the people freer than most countries. So I thought there were some interesting things that she was saying there. So you guys check out the entire article. It's worth it, especially if you want to know more about her and as far as what she's doing and where she's coming from. Again, another stunning photo. Now, there's a moment here which is getting a lot of kind of not the best publicity, I would say, for Jamie Lee Curtis, where they asked Jamie Lee upon meeting her on her first day on Knives Out, which we got to remember, Ana de Armas was nominated for. I believe she was nominated for her performance in this. When she asked her about her first day, Curtis says, I assume, and I say this with real embarrassment, because she had just come from Cuba, that she had just arrived. I made the assumption that she was an inexperienced, unsophisticated young woman. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm going to highlight that there right there. I'm going to highlight that for you guys right there. And I'm going to read on a little bit. She asked because she was so impressed with the Armas that she wanted to introduce her to Steven Spielberg to play Maria in West Side Story. And she continues just as far as, wanting to kind of, take Armas into under her own, arms and kind of maybe help her along in this business. The Armas is also close to Keanu, and co-starred with him in her first English language film, Knock Knock. Now, I assume, let's read this again. I assume, and I say this with real embarrassment, because she had come from Cuba, that she had just arrived. I made the assumption that she was an inexperienced, unsophisticated young woman. That first day, I was like, oh, what are your dreams? All right, so this coded lazy ignorance is nothing new. And it's a uniquely American experience, because we think that just because someone is from another country, a new immigrant, maybe they're having trouble with speaking the English language, that they're less than, that they're inferior, inexperienced. What was the other word she used? Unsophisticated young woman. I mean, what a fucking put down. Let's just, excuse my language, but you just don't hear that. What if she just came from Canada, if she just came from Australia, if she just came from Britain, because those are connected with being sophisticated, being educated, being trained in the theater arts. In this case, she's talking about her experience on film sets, not knowing that Ana has been acting and been in movies for almost a decade before they met. Just because they're in Spanish, they don't count. So the Latino Slant point of view is that this lazy ignorance is nothing new. I have gotten this more from good-hearted liberal people in my experience growing up than most. Often thinking, I was surprised how smart you were, Paul. Well, you're a credit to your race. That's all this is here. And it's got nothing to do with how much I love Jamie Lee. And I do love her stuff on film. I think she's a great horror film star. She's a lot of fun, obviously. She's a gorgeous woman. And I'm happy to see her still working. To me, this speaks also of an ignorant bubble within a bubble experience that you have with Latinos, to maybe your experience has been nothing more than hired servants, which is fine. Hired servants, nannies, landscapers, gardeners, whatever you have hired those Latinos for. I know that, Jamie, you have done so and treated them with dignity and respect and have paid them a good wage. But if that being said, if that's your experience, you definitely don't think, you may not think of them on the same tier as you and your acting capabilities, because we all know how experienced it is and how much training you must have to scream on cue. Now, that is the L story. That is my, measured take on it. I could rant a little bit more. There will be a separate video on how I feel about this week's, as far as the treatment of Latinos in pop culture and the politics, but that is a different video. So I encourage you to check out that as well when I put it up. But now I want to go to the positive world of Twitter. And we'll wrap it up here. But here's just a taste of what people are saying, okay? Of what people are saying, because they're honing in on this, whether it's fair or not. This quote: an inexperienced, unsophisticated young woman because she had just come from Cuba. Okay? So let's try to find, there's a couple in Spanish that are just going off on Jamie Lee. A couple here. Let me see if you guys can see this big enough. Yeah, we can make it a little. I'll make myself a little smaller. What the actual fuck? Some people are saying. Jamie Lee Curtis admitting she thought Ana de Armas had just arrived from Cuba when they met on Knives Out is yikes. Another one says, what's wild about this Jamie Lee Curtis Ana de Armas debacle is the reporter generally asked what Curtis thought of Armas. And that's the first thing she says. Why do you have to go and say all that? And as of right now, me recording this video, I haven't seen a response from Jamie Lee. We'll check in on her Twitter in a second. Here's one in Spanish. Jamie Lee Curtis se trago tanto su papel de Knives Out que empezó a tratar a Ana de Armas como un Miuki recién bajada de la balsa. So it's like, you know, she was treating and viewing Arma as if she just got off a raft from Cuba. Wow. IndieWire is running. A lot of them, Decider, IndieWire, a lot of these guys are running with this. And, you know, it gets clicks. I want to give Jamie Lee the benefit. And like I said, I think when you're in that bubble of liberal progressive, you think that you're a certain way, but you have no idea how really ignorant maybe your takes are, your views are, and how you talk to people and how you talk about people. That's fascinating. Let me leave you with this last one here, guys, and then we'll wrap it up. Luciano says the casual racism of Jamie Lee Curtis is both infuriating and totally expected. It's cringy as hell, and also exactly in line with how Americans are told and taught to think about both Cuba specifically and Hispanic people generally. I mean, I can't argue with that comment. I cannot. Add in also, too, a little bit of professional envy because Ana de Armas is young and beautiful and extremely talented. She's playing Marilyn Monroe, who Jamie Lee Curtis's dad was in Some Like It Hot, Tony Curtis, which she talked about in the Elle article as well. So I think there's just a lot of elements of envy in there, and then just this ugly ignorance. Latinos are getting a lot of it lately, a lot of it. Let me tell you guys, and that's why I did this video, and that's why I think more and more Latinos, whatever your stances are, whether political, social, whether I agree with them or not, you can't be silent with stuff like this, because this is stupid ignorance. This is unnecessary. This is a waste of time. This is actually a waste of time as far as celebrating the Latino culture on the Latino Slant, is that we got to cover this stuff. I think it's important, though, and it sheds light that even some of our favorite celebrities flub up. They have these brain farts. And let me just check in really fast and see if Jamie Lee even has posted anything. I gotta imagine that this heat has just started. Oh, look at John Rocha said something 34 minutes ago. Interesting. Let me make this big for you John Rocha followers. Rocha. Jesus, he says, Jamie Lee Curtis is the sweetest, warmest person I've ever interviewed. But Hollywood liberals, sadly, you're not immune to American beliefs that Latin immigrants are uncultured. To her credit, Jamie owns it and Ana de Armas handles it with class, but this is still a gut punch. I don't see, John, how she's owning anything right now. She just says to her embarrassment. She says it with embarrassment. I mean, I don't know about that, John. It is a gut punch. Okay, well, there you go. Nothing yet from actual Jamie Lee, but appreciate that comment, John. Let's keep it coming. Then that's what I'm talking about, and I will wrap it up right now. That's exactly what I was talking about. Whether you agree with John Rocha on his politics or his movies, whether you agree with the Latino slant in my politics and my movies and all that stuff, Latinos, don't be silent. Do not be silent on stuff like this. This is bread and butter. This is a textbook. This is human dignity and respect. All right. Let me know what you guys think. Stay tuned for more here on the Latino Slant. Muchísimas gracias. And wherever you're at, keep your slant fuerte. That means strong, Jamie Lee. It means strong.
Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, yo. The slant, yeah, but isn't this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think it's the unplugged version. All right, Paulie, let's go.